Bro, you can't even count to 6.
Nah, you don't got those.
Got him.
Where does inspiration come from? A common question that every filmmaker gets asked when creating any piece of work. From scrolling through Instagram, commuting to work, to even sitting and doing nothing. Inspiration shows up when we least expect it. When Laowa reached out to us to try their new set of zero distortion lenses, I knew that this was an opportunity. Whenever I get a new piece of gear, I first think about what I can use it for. What interesting shot can I pull off to tell a story better? I feel like this is the root of any cinematographer because you are a visual storyteller. In this case, we are using ultra-wide lenses to tell a story. An ultra-wide angle lens typically has the focal length of 24 or lower, but some extreme lenses go as wide as 10 millimeters. Typically, in commercial filmmaking, there are 3 use cases that help really tell a story when it comes to using ultra-wide angle lenses. The first being creating a sense of space. And this simply means such a wide angle allows you to capture more in a scene in a single frame. The second, highlighting scale and depth. This is the exaggeration of the relationship between the foreground and background, making objects in the foreground appear larger and more pronounced compared to the background. This effect helps emphasize a product or a person in a scene, and you can do this purposely to draw the viewer's eye to the key subject. The last and my favorite to use is enhancing drama and emotion. This is a creative effect to exaggerate emotional responses or reactions by distorting the background and drawing attention to the subject. So kind of that leaning in banana face feel. And the first and last points are the ones that we're going to be focusing on when we're showing you exactly how we made this technical spec with these fun lenses. This was all shot on the Sony FX3 using the Laowa 10mm, 12mm, and 14mm, in addition to the Laowa sword line with the 60mm and 100mm for all the tight macro shots you see throughout the commercial. All the tripod shots were really easy to pull off with simple gear, but I had one shot in mind that would be the main focus of the commercial. This would be the dolly into each of the players during the suspenseful moment in the commercial. To achieve this, I used a Mitchell mount hi-hat and a customized Mitchell angle plate with a Pro Aim 4-foot slider. Now, I know what you're gonna say, this is really complicated and I don't really have the money to buy this gear, but you could easily pull this off with a simple slider and a tripod. I usually do these type of shots on heavy cinema cameras that require bigger tools like the use of Mitchell mount products. With the gear out of the way, we can really dive into how we shot this fun spec commercial. I know you might be a little confused at this point because this is a lens test and a technical spec. So why do I have to do any pre-production? This is the #1 thing I hear and why I see people struggling as cinematographers. No matter the size or scale of the project, I do pre-pro all the time because it makes things so much easier. For this project, it was aligning with 2 references and making a shot list to follow. There were 2 main references. The first was a commercial made for an American clothing brand and a Legend of Zelda commercial that shows off ultra-wide angle lenses perfectly. I love the rawness of the clothing commercial and the exaggerated expressions when it came to the Zelda commercial. And you can see how this was heavily inspired by the first commercial just because of the rawness and as well as the subject matter. But it was aligning with a reference that was going to be used to really tell the story and get my point across. As this was a spec and paying homage as well as crediting somebody else's work, I was using this as a learning experience for the jobs that I'm getting paid for. And with that, I made a shot list, and this cuts down the production time in half because there's no guesswork and I can align with everybody on set. In the past 7 years of being a filmmaker, I have wasted so many hours not having the documents to do pre-production properly. This is why we built Set Memory to fix that. Set Memory is a collection of the same shot lists, director's treatments, and production templates we've battle tested on 100K plus projects. These are all designed from the ground up and used across major brand campaigns. Don't waste the same time that we did and use our pre-production system. Go check it out at setmemory.store or check out the link in the description below. As this was a pretty easy one, I shot this commercial as it would be edited as I was dealing with just one scene. I didn't light anything, we just had a bunch of lights out from a previous shoot that we were doing, and it tells a little bit more of a story as well as does some world building because we are in a studio. I started off with the macro shots of the 2 players saying their lines. I got multiple options just to be flexible in post. I then moved the camera to the center of the table and shot coverage of each of the players as well as some whips to drive the story forward. And then we moved on to a series of shots that I was really looking looking forward to. With the slider contraption set up, we shot each player with unique interactions with the camera. With the use of the 14mm, the camera movement, and shooting at 60 frames per second sold the effect really well. This is the point of the production that I really enjoy because filmmaking is inherently collaborative. A lot of people have good and different ideas that might stray from the original creative that you're doing, but if it adds to the piece and tells the story better, why not? The next thing that we did is use the 10mm to get the reaction shot of everyone looking at the dice. This is a crazy focal length that I'm really excited to try out in some future commercial productions. After that, I moved to the start and final wide just because it was going upstairs and we could just shoot these things at the same time. This was an easy one to put together as it was a commercial with a clear-cut story. The only thing that I really had to do was shoot some additional inserts of the dice rolling at 250 frames per second on the FX3 and record audio of everyone screaming into a Zoom recorder. This was used for the dramatic dice rolling sequence. I just used the recorded audio, slowed it down, and used a pitch shifter to change it up so everything felt different. And just because of how well this was planned, those were the only really extra things that I had to do. The biggest thing I learned from this production is really testing things before you're out in the real world. These lenses are super compact relative to the predecessor of the 12mm that came out, and they make it really easy to get specialty shots that I'm really excited for. With a native E-mount, I can attach these lenses to my Sony FX3 and then I can attach that to really anything. I can make a snorri shot of an object going through a space with a 10mm, 12 or 14mm. So these are going to be an essential tool in my toolkit. And because I already tried them out, I already know which lenses are really appropriate for different scenarios. For example, if we talk about the dolly shots going to each of the characters, the 10mm and 12mm would be a little too much, and that's why I went with the 14 because it shows off the face slightly better. And then getting an overlooking shot where I'm looking for so much information and detail into that scene, 10mm worked perfectly. And I'm really excited to try out these lenses in different scenarios, but it was really important to try them out in a controlled setting where I could get comfortable and know exactly when to use them when it really counts.